What's up, cast and crew, and welcome back to Tyler's Theater. In today's video, we are going to be talking about Disney's newest live-action movie, Lilo and Stitch. Now, to kind of start this video off right off the bat, I am a huge fan of the original animated feature. Stitch is one of my favorite characters. I love how much of a rascal he is, how much trouble he gets into. He's just such a fun character. But aside from that, I also love the idea of Ohana and family, having Hawaiian heritage in my family line. Of course, I'm going to love Lilo and Stitch. Now, to kind of start off this review, and of course, I'm going to be giving my true and honest thoughts on this movie. I don't think this movie needed to be made. Now, that's not me saying that it was a bad movie, but because the animated movie is just so well done and it's just such a fun watch, kind of doing it in live action, I just felt like was somewhat pointless. And to me, it just kind of shows me that the studio is kind of running out of ideas and is just trying to figure out how to put out a type of media that could make some money. I'm always going to be open to films, but I will speak honestly when movies are good, and I will speak honestly when movies are bad. Now, for the live action Lilo and Stitch, I'm going to give this film a 6 out of 10, which actually is not bad. That's a little more than halfway. But there were some things that I liked about this movie, and there were some things that I didn't really like about it at all. To start off, I thought the acting was actually very good. When I was watching the trailers, I'll be honest, the first time I saw the little actress for Lilo, I wasn't quite sure. I know that she's a very young actress and that I believe this was her first film. So, props to her. I mean, that's that's a huge accomplishment at her age. But from what I saw in the trailers, I feel like they didn't really do her justice. I was a little concerned. It kind of showed me in the trailers that she didn't have that acting experience, that she was young and new to acting. But after seeing her in this film, I completely ate my words. I thought she did absolutely phenomenal as Lilo. She even had a few scenes where I was actually getting very emotional. And to add to that, this movie is actually very emotional. There are scenes that were kind of tugging on the heartstrings a little bit, and I was kind of feeling deep within this movie. Like, it was really pulling me in as far as the emotion was going. Not throughout the movie, but in certain scenes, I was in the theater and I was like, okay, like, yeah, that was a good scene. And to me, when it comes to any film or any type of storytelling, that is the goal for a film, is to make the audience feel something, whether it's fear or anger or sadness or joy. You want the audience to be able to escape the real world and enter a world of imagination, of creativity. And you also want the audience to be able to relate to a story or to a certain character. The little girl who played Lilo was very good. I have nothing to say but good things to her, and I really think she did well playing Lilo. I do think the actress who played Nani also did a very good job. I don't believe I've seen her in many other films, but for this particular role of this complex sister relationship, very stressed out character, and of course both of them losing their parents, I definitely felt the stress and the depression from both of the two actresses. So I do give them props for that. When it comes to story, they definitely wanted to focus more on the relationship between Lilo and Nani, which I don't have a problem with at all. But right off the bat, right in the beginning of the movie, you feel that relationship between the two. When Lilo is in her dance show or whatever it was in the beginning, she had a seat specifically for Nani, and of course Nani was late. She wasn't able to make it. Now in the cartoon, they didn't really focus on that. It was more just Nani was late to pick her up. I liked seeing the relationship. This is where I kind of started to feel for the characters. Nani struggling to kind of become that not just older sister, but that mom figure to Lilo, trying to raise her the best way she knows how. I did think that was very interesting. However, on the opposite side of that coin, I feel like it took away from the relationship between Lilo and Stitch. To me, Stitch kind of felt like a back character. Like, he was still that ragdoll that you know him to be, but that really was all he was. Like, he was just kind of in the way of the two sisters. you can look at me and say, well, Tyler, he was like that in the cartoon. And you would be right. However, what I feel like this movie missed was kind of the point of Stitch. Through the chaos that Lilo and Nani were having, Stitch was just an additional stressor for them, if you will. But he also was able to bring them closer together. And when Lilo was taken in the cartoon by the big dude, what's his name? Gantu, Nani was forced to pair up with Stitch and get Lilo back. So even in the cartoon, Nani and Stitch were able to kind of grow a relationship. I felt like Nani didn't really have a huge relationship with Stitch. Yes, of course, of course this is going to have spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie, close your ears. But towards the end of the movie, as Stitch is drowning, Nani goes down, grabs him, and brings him back. Stitch would have been gone if it wasn't for Nani. By the way, her holding Stitch and running at the bottom of the ocean to me was kind of ridiculous. Kind of like, okay, that's kind of stupid. Get what they were trying to do, but to me, that didn't work. My other problem with this movie was the elimination of Gantu. If you haven't seen the cartoon, Gantu was actually like the main villain. He was the one who was trying to bring Stitch back to Squidward lady with the big, I don't know what that was. He was tasked specifically to bring Stitch back. Whereas Pleakley and Jumba were also trying to bring Stitch back. It was kind of like a competition between Jumba and Gantu who would get Stitch first. When Stitch is captured by Jumba, Gantu kidnaps Lilo, and Jumba and Stitch then have to work together to get Lilo back in the original one. Whereas in this one, Jumba is actually the main villain in this movie. He kidnaps Stitch, and which at first I didn't have a problem with because he did that in the cartoon. But then they kind of just made him like a total, like, there's a word, but I'm going to say jerk. Like the scene when he was in the house and he was just like shooting at the doors and the walls, and then he was going to shoot at the portrait or the picture of the family. I was like, bro, why is he being like this? Like, he only has one job. Remember, a character always has to have a motive. And for Jumba, it's to just get Stitch and bring him back. I just felt like he was completely off as far as the character goes. And turning Jumba and Pleakley into live action to me, some things just need to be animated. Disney, listen. I understand that sometimes live action can work, but when you have something like Stitch, Jumba, Pleakley, Squidward Lady, they look okay in animation. For a kid, that's okay. They can escape to imagination alien planet, and that works. When you see it in live action, it's only creepy as hell, and it looks weird. So I just felt like, to me, that just kind of like took away what I really enjoyed about the original cartoon. It's fun. Whereas this one didn't give the same feeling, and I do think part of that is because it is live action. So the three problems I had with this movie was some of the characters like Jumba were just different. And another one was, who's the dude who set the, why am I blanking? Who's the guy who set the luau on fire? David. He was always kind of part of the family. He was always kind of weird in the original. He was always the positive character that kept them uplifted. And in this one, he really had no significance to this movie. Even in the cartoon, when Lilo and Nani are having that awful day and he suggests something as simple as going for a surf, that says a lot about his character. He can take the weight off of them. Whereas this one, it was more, oh, go sign up to be a surf instructor. So some of the characters were just completely wrong in this one. I understand there was also a change with Cobra. I didn't mind it. I actually thought it kind of worked out. I wish Cobra had more of a part in it, though. To me, he was very humorous. Not because he was a funny character in the cartoon, but because I felt like he made Stitch funnier, because Stitch was always kind of like messing with him. The scene in the cartoon when Stitch throws the book in his face, like, I crack up at that every time I see that. So the characters were a little bit different, which I don't think it was for the better. I just don't think the movie needed to be made, because animation, in my opinion, is always a little bit better when it comes to these things. And I do think it is one of Disney's strengths. And I would love for Disney to get back to doing more animation than live action. I'm sure a lot of us can agree on that. And thirdly, the relationship between Lilo and Stitch to me was not as impactful as it was in the cartoon. But that's basically all I really had to say about this movie. I still gave it a 6 out of a 10 because I think it is a great start for summer. I still think it's a very fun movie to go and see. Maybe go see a matinee. If you have kids, go take your kids, go see it. I think it would be great to kind of introduce the new generation to Stitch, as I do think he is a very popular character. And aside from those little tweaks, there really wasn't much that I had against this movie. I still had fun with it, and it was able to kind of take my mind off of, some things and just relax and just doing what I love doing, and that's watching films. But anyway, that's a wrap on this video, guys. Of course, if you haven't already, make sure you go ahead, like, and comment on this video, and of course, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.